Your brain was not built for comfort. It was not designed to retreat, to shrink, or to merely survive. Deep within your nervous system is a structure biological, electrical, spiritual engineered to pursue, to overcome, and to expand in the face of challenge. The prefrontal cortex is your command center for focus, planning, and overriding impulse. It must be trained daily. It is not just a piece of brain tissue behind your forehead. It is sacred ground. It is the seat of willpower, the chamber of obedience, the holy place where your flesh meets fire and must decide, do I surrender to the now, or do I rise for the eternal? The prefrontal cortex is not concerned with comfort. It is wired for direction, precision, and purpose. This is the part of you that can silence the scream of distraction and hear the whisper of destiny. It is what separates reaction from response. It is what transforms instinct into intention. Every time you choose focus over entertainment, every time you hold the line when temptation presses in, this part of your brain is engaged. It is the neural battlefield where future victories are born in present resistance. The prefrontal cortex gives you the ability to see beyond emotion, to remember what matters when the world offers what is easy. It allows you to override the signal to quit and instead press forward when there's no applause, no spotlight, and no guarantee. This is where power is forged not in inspiration, but in deliberate confrontation with your own lower nature. But this center of command does not grow on its own. It must be trained, just like a muscle. Neglect it, and it weakens. Feed it, and it sharpens. When you rise early, when you say no to the voice that says stay in bed, when you begin your day with intention rather than reaction, you are feeding this sacred system. When you write your goals, when you sit in silence and command your thoughts, when you eliminate the noise that pulls you away from purpose, you are building spiritual circuitry. The structure of the brain is molded by repetition, and every act of obedience is a blow to the walls that once held you back. The prefrontal cortex was not created to be idle. It was created to govern. It was made to take dominion not just over the body, but over the flesh, the craving, the lie that says you can't. It is the throne room of decision, and decision is the beginning of destiny. This is where a person separates from their past, not through emotion, but through execution. Not by dreaming, but by doing. This is where patterns are broken, where chains are shattered, and where the neural code of mediocrity is rewritten by fire and discipline. God did not give you a spirit of fear, but a mind capable of commanding the flesh to bow, a mind able to plan, focus, persist. The prefrontal cortex reflects that divine design. It is the image of order in a world of chaos. It is the holy architecture that allows man to rise from animal instinct to eternal purpose. And it answers not to moods, not to motivation, but to the repeated, reverent choice to rise when it's inconvenient, to rise when it hurts, to rise when no one sees. Because the power to conquer begins not with your body, not even with your heart, but with the silent, sacred fire between your eyes, the place where the war is either won or lost. Dopamine is not about pleasure. It's about pursuit learned to trigger it through effort and progress, not rewards. Dopamine is the chemical signature of pursuit. It is not the result of arriving. It is the signal to keep going. It is the divine motivator placed deep within your neurobiology, a spark ignited not when the prize is in your hands, but when your feet first hit the path. Too many have been misled, taught that dopamine is pleasure, but biologically it is something higher. It is drive, it is motion. It is the invisible fire that pushes a person to keep building, keep reaching, keep obeying the call, even when there is no comfort, no applause, no reward in sight. You were not created to chase ease. You were designed to pursue excellence, and your dopamine system is proof. When you align it with effort, when you learn to link dopamine not to the outcome, but to the process, everything shifts. You begin to crave the climb. You begin to find joy in the hard things. You begin to feel alive not when the goal is achieved, but when the work is done in secret, when the action is taken in silence, when the soul says yes to discipline again and again. That is not motivational hype. That is neurochemistry aligned with heaven's intention. The enemy of greatness is false reward. The world floods your system with cheap dopamine scrolls, sweets, shallow validation, all of it stolen pleasure, all of it decay in disguise. When you surrender to it, you weaken the very circuit that was designed to make you unstoppable. But when you delay gratification, when you deny yourself the easy and choose the hard, something miraculous happens. Your dopamine release becomes anchored in your effort, and that effort becomes sacred. The brain begins to say, I find reward in the doing. I find purpose in the discipline. I rise when others wait. This is how the righteous are forged, not by wishing, but by wiring. Not by will alone, but by a brain trained to pursue without needing comfort. Every time you embrace the resistance, every time you repeat the habit, every time you show up when your flesh says rest, you are not just moving forward. You are shaping your chemistry. You are training your dopamine to follow your mission, not your mood. You are shifting from a reactive system to a ruling system where dopamine no longer drags you around, but drives you toward divine direction. The most powerful people do not have more dopamine. They have disciplined dopamine. They know where to place it. They know how to create the reward, not at the end of the battle, but in the steps of the fight. They celebrate consistency. They find fire in obedience. They feel joy in delayed outcomes because they know something the world forgets, that progress is the prize. That motion is the miracle. That effort, repeated in alignment with purpose, is worship in its highest form. And when your brain is trained to reward the process, you will keep going long after others quit, not because the road is easy, but because you have been rewired to love the road itself. Neuroplasticity allows your brain to adapt to challenge. Discipline becomes easier the more you deliberately practice it. There is no chain so strong that your brain cannot break it. No pattern so deep that it cannot be rewritten. No identity so fixed that it cannot be transformed. Inside your skull is the most adaptive system in creation. The brain, forged by fire and divine intelligence, built not to remain static, but to be molded by action, repetition, and intention. This is the gift of neuroplasticity. It is not self-help. It is not theory. It is the sacred truth that your brain is always listening to your behavior. It does not respond to what you say. It responds to what you do. Every time you rise in the face of fatigue, every time you choose order over chaos, every time you resist the flesh and obey the higher calling, you are not just being disciplined. You are forming new connections. You are carving pathways through your mind like trails through the wilderness. The old wiring, those circuits of procrastination, addiction, distraction, they begin to fade, not by accident, but by force. By the repeated decision to act in alignment with who you are becoming, not who you used to be. Neuroplasticity is the divine echo of your choices. The brain does not forget. It stores, it strengthens, it reinforces. And this means your daily decisions are not just moments. They are instructions. Commands sent to your nervous system saying, "This is who I am now." And the more those signals are repeated, the more the brain obeys. The more automatic discipline becomes. What once took strength now becomes reflex. What once took resistance now becomes rhythm. Because the mind follows the one who leads it, and every repeated act of focus and obedience is a declaration of leadership. This is why discipline becomes easier, not because the world gets softer, but because the brain gets sharper. Because you stop negotiating with your old nature, because your mind has been trained in the furnace of consistency. You are not depending on motivation anymore. You are depending on wiring. You are depending on the circuits you carved through sweat, silence, and sacred repetition. These circuits become your default. They carry you when you're tired. They hold you when your emotions betray you. They guide you when nothing else makes sense. This is what it means to renew your mind, to daily offer your habits as a living sacrifice, to present your body, your schedule, your energy as an act of worship, not once, but again and again, until your flesh submits and your brain bends to the blueprint of heaven, until the old roads of weakness are overgrown and new highways of strength are laid with fire and truth. This is not magic. This is biology aligned with eternity. Neuroplasticity is not just a feature, it is a calling. A call to stop waiting for change and start becoming the change, one choice at a time, one morning at a time, one act of holy discipline that declares, I am no longer who I was, and my brain now agrees. Exposure to morning light, physical movement, and breath control primes your brain for peak cognitive performance. Before the world speaks, before your phone lights up, before the noise of the day floods your mind, there is a sacred window, a moment when the brain is most pliable, most impressionable, most open to alignment. The first hour after waking is not ordinary. It is holy ground. It is the biological altar where you prepare your nervous system for victory or surrender. And what you do with that time determines the clarity, resilience, and drive that will follow. This is not productivity advice. This is the neuroscience of divine preparation. When your eyes meet natural light in the early morning light that enters not through glass, but from the heavens themselves, your body receives its first command, awaken. Not just physically, but neurologically, light enters through your eyes, striking the retina, sending signals deep into the suprachiasmatic nucleus, your brain's master clock. This is where time is set, hormones are released, and focus is born. Cortisol rises, not the chaotic cortisol of stress, but the structured kind. The kind that brings alertness, readiness, fire. Melatonin drops, dopamine begins to build, serotonin is formed. You are no longer waking up, you are stepping into command, but light alone is not enough. The body was made to move. The nervous system is activated not by thought alone, but by action, physical movement, even if light, even if just a walk under the rising sun, signals to your brain that the day has begun. Muscles contract, blood flows, the spine extends, neuromodulators surge, you become chemically aligned with momentum. And when this movement is consistent, your brain begins to anticipate the signal. It prepares for war at the same time each day. It sharpens, it obeys, and what was once chaos becomes rhythm. Then comes breath, the bridge between the conscious and the unconscious. With deliberate breath work, slow inhales through the nose, longer controlled exhales through the mouth, you speak directly to your autonomic nervous system. You tell it, we are in control. You reduce anxiety before it begins. You lower your heart rate while raising your intention. You prepare not only your lungs, but your mind. The breath becomes prayer, the breath becomes discipline, the breath becomes the signal to your soul that today you will not be ruled by emotion, but by clarity. These three pillars, light, movement, breath, are not routines. They are ancient technologies built into your biology by a God who desires order, not confusion. They are not tricks to feel better. They are weapons to dominate distraction, fatigue, and mental fog. When you anchor your mornings in them, your brain responds with obedience. Your focus sharpens. Your prefrontal cortex activates. Your dopamine flows not from scrolling, but from striving. You do not wait for energy, you generate it. You do not chase motivation, you create the conditions for it to rise naturally, predictably, powerfully. Your brain, when aligned with these first morning acts, becomes a servant of your mission rather than slave to your feelings. And when that happens, the entire trajectory of your day bends toward purpose. Cold exposure and stress inoculation rewire your nervous system to stay calm, alert, and resilient under pressure. There is a sacred doorway between weakness and strength, and few are willing to walk through it. It is cold. It is uncomfortable. It is the place where the body screams and the mind wants to flee. But it is in that very place, when everything in you wants to run, that the nervous system learns to obey purpose over panic. This is the power of deliberate stress, of controlled adversity, of choosing discomfort as a teacher. This is where the untrained nervous system is broken and rebuilt. This is where resilience is not imagined, but embedded into the biology of your being. When your body is submerged in cold, when your skin meets freezing water, or your breath shortens under a cold shower, the nervous system responds instantly. The sympathetic system activates, your heart rate spikes, adrenaline rises, everything inside you is yelling escape. And that is the exact moment of choice. Not a choice made with emotion, but with training. You stay, you breathe, you remain. And with every second in that cold, with every breath taken under tension, you are rewiring. You are telling your nervous system, we do not bow to fear, we do not run from resistance, we stay focused in the fire. This isn't just about cold. It's about control. It's about teaching your body that stress does not own you, that discomfort is not danger, that you can be alert even when afraid, that you can be calm even in chaos. And when this training is done consistently, the circuits of your brain begin to change. The prefrontal cortex, your command center, gains more control over the amygdala, the emotional center. Your brain becomes more efficient under pressure. Your reactions slow. Your awareness sharpens. Your spirit remains steady even when the storm rises. Stress inoculation is not just physical, it's spiritual warfare. It is the practice of walking into the fire on purpose so that when the real fire comes, you are ready. It is fasting from comfort. It is practicing pain in doses so that pain no longer dominates you. It is not masochism. It is mastery. And mastery of the nervous system is mastery of life. Because the one who can remain clear when others panic, the one who can breathe through chaos, the one who has felt the shaking and stood still, that person becomes unshakable. Cold is the metaphor, but the principle is eternal. You must face what is hard so you can hold what is heavy. You must choose the weight before the weight chooses you. The man or woman who trains their nervous system in peace prepares it for war. And when adversity finally arrives, and it will, you will not flinch, you will not fold, because you've met the stress before. You've trained in the dark, you've baptized your body in discomfort until calm became your reflex, and now your nervous system knows discomfort is no longer a threat. It is an invitation to rise. Consistent sleep, nutrition, and stress regulation are the foundation of mental clarity, motivation, and long-term dominance. Discipline is not built on willpower alone. It is built on a system, an internal structure that governs your energy, focus, and emotional stability. And like any structure, if the foundation is weak, the entire mission collapses. That foundation is not just what you think or feel, it is how you sleep, how you eat, and how you manage what presses against your soul. These are not optional components of strength. They are the roots of your brain's ability to function under pressure and command your days with clarity and force. Sleep is not rest, it is recalibration. It is the divine reset, the holy appointment where your body heals and your brain reorders its circuits. While you sleep, your prefrontal cortex, the seat of self-control, is restored. Your hormonal rhythms are balanced. Your emotional volatility is subdued. You are not wasting time in sleep. You are preparing for war. Every hour of deep sleep is a deposit into your focus, your drive, your patience, your fire. But when sleep is shallow, skipped, or ignored, your nervous system begins to unravel. Your reactions sharpen, your vision narrows, your resistance to temptation crumbles. You begin to act not from discipline, but from depletion, and then comes nutrition. Not for image, but for impact. Food is not just fuel, it is instruction. Every bite sends signals to your brain, telling it to wake up or shut down, to pursue or to pause. Amino acids, micronutrients, glucose stability, these are not dietary trends. They are the biochemical building blocks of focus, alertness, and long-term mental resilience. If you feed your body trash, your brain will give you chaos. If you nourish it with intention, proteins, fats, clean carbohydrates, hydration, you are giving your mind the resources it needs to obey. You are reinforcing the circuits of energy, not exhaustion. You are telling your brain, we are here to build, not break. Stress, finally, is the constant companion of any serious mission. You cannot eliminate it, but you must learn to command it. Unchecked stress destroys clarity. It floods your system with cortisol, hijacks your dopamine, dulls your memory, steals your peace. But stress submitted to breathe, stillness, movement, and routine becomes something else. It becomes a sharpening. The nervous system, like the soul, does not grow stronger in the absence of pressure. It grows when pressure is approached with posture, with preparation, with purpose. And when you regulate your stress, you regulate your perception. You take back the power to see clearly, act decisively, endure relentlessly. This is why sleep, nutrition, and stress mastery are not soft skills. They are the spine of strength. Without them, all your routines and declarations will fall to fatigue and frustration. But with them, your brain becomes a fortress. You do not rise and fall with emotion. You do not chase hype. You are steady, precise, dangerous in the best way. Because the core of your biology has been submitted to order, to reverence, to the deeper understanding that God built you to endure, but He also gave you the tools to sustain. You don't just conquer when conditions are perfect. You dominate because you are prepared from the inside out.